You'll use that one.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. You know, at times, I know when people start engaging on issues, finances, sometimes we find it boring. I'll try to make it a little bit more interesting. What actually Honorable Nderitu was saying on capital gains tax is, if today, Honorable Kioni, together with your wife, you enter into a partnership and you're running your partnership and you decide that you want to give some of your assets, including your house or building, for that business, then of course the total balance sheet of the business will go up. And if that increase is more than 20%, the Ruto government is telling us that that must now be taxed. So that is a simple explanation of that. But I want to now focus more on VAT. You know, Kenyans have just been talking about one aspect or one particular amendment to the VAT Act, and that is the amendment that is touching on fuel and petroleum products, which is found under Clause 28. Yes, the proposal is to increase that from the current 8% to 16%, something that we defeated a few months ago. And now, if that happens, obviously, then the cost of transportation in this country will be high, whether it is individual transportation or private transportation or transportation of produce, agricultural produce to the market, it will increase. That will definitely increase the cost of basic commodities. It will also affect the cost of construction. And that is where we find the disconnect between Ruto's policies. In one way or the other, they are talking of affordable housing. In another, they are taking away that by making the cost of construction very expensive, because there will be transportation of materials to the various construction sites. But that is not the end. If you go to Clause 30 of the bill, Clause 30 of the bill is the one that the Prime Minister talked about, the insurance compensation. Yesterday, I watched my colleagues struggling to mislead Kenyans, the chair of the Finance Committee, trying to say that this one is only touching on those supplies where input VAT had been paid, and now there is an accident, maybe fire has burnt the business, and so you are being compensated, and so you could claim input tax twice. You know, interestingly, I want us to engage our minds to this. First, this MP was trying to think the law, but not what is in this bill. What he was saying is thinking the law. The truth is, for you to be refunded input tax in this country, you must have sold the commodity. So before it is sold, you cannot be refunded input tax. So something that is burnt has not been sold. And there is no insurance company which will compensate you at the selling price. They will compensate you at the cost at which you acquired the commodity. So what he was telling us was simply playing with our psychology. What is provided in this bill is that if you get compensation, that compensation will be taxed at 16%. That is the truth, and that no one can run away from that. I want to go straight to Clause 33, which is proposing a number of amendments. And I will start, you know, interestingly, ladies and gentlemen, Ruto has been telling Kenyans that why don't you praise me for the 20 items that have now exempted. But most of those items that he's talking about were actually zero rated. Presently they are zero rated. Now they are being moved from zero rating to exempt. And you are telling us we should clap for you. Unless these people have not really fully briefed President Ruto, or Ruto, I think he has not been properly briefed. For those who may not know, or those who don't understand the difference between exempt and zero rating, the simple explanation I would give you is that exempt commodities are, zero rated commodities are cheaper. because you are allowed to claim input tax. In exempt, you cannot charge VAT, but any VAT that you paid on what went into adding value to that commodity is claimable. In exempt, it is not. I want to give a very simple example. The table in front of you. If that table is exempt from tax, VAT, what it means is if you are selling the table, you will not charge VAT. But any VAT that you paid on wood or timber that was used to make the table, nails, glue, all that is still subject to VAT. You will not claim that tax. But if it is zero rated, apart from charging zero tax when you are selling the table, you will be allowed to claim any tax that you paid for the nails, for the wood, for the glue, and anything that went into the manufacture of the table. Therefore, what I'm saying in a nutshell is a zero-rated commodity is cheaper than an exempt commodity. What Ruto is doing is transferring many of those items from zero rating to exempt. And you can find that under clause 33. You read it together with the original act. That is a problem that I find with the Kwanza leadership. They are reading the act without the bill without the act. So if they are told that pharmaceuticals, for example, are now exempt, they celebrate, they start clapping, not knowing that pharmaceutical products are currently zero rated. And I will mention now what some of those items. One is the maize flour, another is the cassava flour, wheat flour. And we are asking, what is the problem with Kwanza with unga? They just want to make unga expensive to this country. Are they discouraging us from eating ugali? Or they should tell us. If they don't want us to eat ugali, they should say so. The other item that was initially zero rated, now is going to be exempt, is under clause 33, pharmaceutical products, more particularly insulin. I think the Prime Minister talked about it. Now treating diabetes will be more expensive. Hypertension, and many of us, and the stress that we are going through as a nation, a higher percentage will go through hypertension than experienced previously. Now is the time to make treatment of hypertension should even be more cheaper. The agricultural sector, fertilizer, and you know I was in a studio this morning with the deputy leader of majority, and he was saying that agricultural products like fertilizer are going to be cheaper because the fertilizer and the fertilizer manufacturing raw materials will now be exempt. I was telling him, you know, you are just showing your ignorance to the people of Kenya. Do you know presently it is zero rated? And now you are taking it to exempt. And you want to cheat Kenyans out there that you are making the cost of agricultural product, agricultural sector, the input for farming, cheaper. You are subsidizing fertilizer, but you are making it more expensive. Construction of materials for tourism sector and recreational facilities are now going to be vatable. They are not presently. Eco-friendly cooking gas is now going to be vatable. Construction of specialized hostels. In fact, I met a bishop as I was walking out of the studio. He was going to talk about cancer, and he asked me, what should I say? I said, you go and tell Kenyans that we are suffering as a nation. We can't treat cancer because we don't have specialized hospitals. If we get investors who are ready to invest in specialized hospital to treat cancer and such elements, presently the materials they use in construction of the hospital facilities would be zero rated. What Ruto is telling you, that must stop, because we don't need to again subsidize or support agricultural products. I want to proceed very quickly because I know time is not on our side. Honorable Nderito has talked about it. If you are doing all this, one would expect you, then you're taxing the poor like this, that you tax then everybody. But those who are able to afford helicopters, and we are not very many in this country, that one you help by reducing or removing them or exempting them from paying VAT. Let me go to excise duty. Mobile money transfer. We are aware and we know that most Kenyans, especially small traders, the most used mode of transacting is mobile money transfer. I am sure almost all of us here have sent money this morning. Why is Kenya Kwanza government increasing excise duty on mobile money transfer from 12% to 15%, but reducing bank transfer charges or excise duty on bank transfer? What is the rationale? Where is the priority? Who do we think about? Who do we consider? Is it the common person or the elite? The beauty supplies, I think the Prime Minister has exhausted that. I don't want to go to that. But we all know what that means. On imported cement, the issue we have, fine, you can protect. There is excise duty of 10%. You can protect the local economy. But there should be harmony in government policies. If you have set in providing houses, it is imagined that the construction of houses is going to be on upward rise. Therefore, you must make raw materials cheap. This is not the time to interfere with duty on cement, because you are going to make cost of construction more expensive. Why don't we start? Then we see our local demand. If the local demand is not so high that we don't need to import cement, then we can go ahead. This is not the end. This is not the last finance bill. Every year we will have finance bills until Jesus comes. This country will have, as long as it exists as a country, we will have finance bill. Let me quickly, I don't want to go to others. I think we have given you, unless there are more questions. I wanted just to talk about two more things. Something that Prime Minister has touched on. You know, as we were very busy, they call it noise, with this noise around finance bill, they have cheekily introduced another small bill here, an amendment to PFM Act. And what they are doing, and I want to agree with the Prime Minister, you know, first, they are now changing the system of setting the debt ceilings from the absolute number, which is 10 trillion now, to what we may call pegging it on GDP. And they are saying 55% of GDP. That is the proposal. But they already know presently that already our debt stock is at 60% of GDP. And they know it will not make sense because you are putting it at 55, it's already at 60. So they have come up with an amendment. And this is Public Finance Management Amendment Bill 2023. This is the amendment, and I want to read it. They say Section 50 of the Principal Act is amended by deleting the words "a limit" and substituting therefore the word "set threshold." So they are replacing limit with threshold. That I would leave to lawyers like His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka to interpret the difference between limit and threshold. To me, probably it is the same. But then, the worst bit is by inciting the following proviso at the end of the sentence. That, and listen to that, provided that if at any time the Cabinet Secretary is unable to maintain the public debt threshold as required under this subsection, or the regulation made thereunder, the Cabinet Secretary shall submit a written report to Parliament explaining the cause of the breach on the threshold and provide a time bound for a remedial plan. How do you explain breach of law? How do you explain breach of law? And it is saying that the Cabinet Secretary will only submit a report. He's not even seeking approval of the National Assembly. I don't know whether there is any democracy in the world where debt ceiling is set by executive alone. So these guys are running away from accountability. They want to I think they just want to destroy the economy of this country. Otherwise,